After the movement of pleasure and desire has been seen, something broader begins to reveal itself. A pattern that has been present across nearly every aspect of life. The movement of pursuit. Not just the pursuit of pleasure, but the pursuit of anything the mind believes will complete it. For most of life, there is a sense that something is missing, not always clearly defined, but present. A feeling that something more is needed, more success, more recognition, more connection, more understanding, more experience. And from that sense, the mind begins to move towards something. Always towards something. This movement creates direction, purpose, motivation. It gives life a sense of progression, of becoming. But when observed carefully, something begins to reveal itself. Each time something is reached, the sense of completion is temporary. There may be satisfaction, relief, even excitement, but it does not last. Soon, another movement begins. Another goal, another desire, another direction. The mind continues. From one pursuit to another. This creates a cycle, seeking, finding, losing, seeking again. And because the cycle is continuous, it begins to feel like life itself. But is it? Or is it a pattern the mind has learned? A pattern driven by the assumption that fulfillment lies ahead, that something must be reached in order to feel complete. This assumption is rarely questioned, because it has been reinforced again and again. Every experience seems to confirm it, until attention begins to look more closely, and then something becomes clear. What is being pursued is not the object itself. It is a state, a feeling, a sense of completion, and that state is always projected into the future, never fully present. This is why the pursuit never ends. Because what is being sought is never actually found in the object. It is imagined, projected, and then transferred from one object to another. The mind believes this will be it. And when it is not, it moves on, again, and again, and again. This is the endless pursuit, not driven by reality, but by an idea. An assumption that something essential is missing now and exists somewhere else, in time. And as long as that assumption remains, the movement continues, relentlessly, without rest, without resolution, until it is seen clearly. As it is. As the movement of pursuit continues, a pattern becomes increasingly clear. No matter what is achieved, the sense of satisfaction does not last. At first, this may seem like a flaw in the object. Perhaps the goal was not the right one. Perhaps something more is needed, something better, something more aligned. So the mind adjusts, it refines what it seeks, it aims higher or differently. But the pattern remains. Satisfaction comes, and then it fades. Why? When attention begins to observe closely, the answer is not found in what is achieved, but in how it is experienced. The moment something is reached, there is a pause, a brief ending of movement. The mind, which was previously seeking, is no longer moving towards something. In that pause, there is relief, a sense of completeness. But almost immediately, thought returns. It recognizes the experience, labels it, remembers it, and then begins to move again. How can I keep this? How can I repeat this? What comes next? And with that movement, the original satisfaction begins to dissolve. Not because the experience has changed, but because the mind has reintroduced time. It has turned a complete moment into something to be continued. And in doing so, it has ended the completeness of that moment. This reveals something fundamental. Satisfaction is not sustained through continuation. It exists in the absence of movement, in the moment where nothing is being pursued, nothing is being extended, nothing is being added. But the mind is not accustomed to remaining there. It is conditioned to move, to seek, to become. So even after reaching something, it cannot remain still. It must continue. And in that continuation, dissatisfaction begins again. This is why no achievement, no experience, no state can provide lasting fulfillment. Because the mind transforms each into something to be maintained. And in that transformation, it loses what it had. The more the mind seeks permanence in experience, the more fleeting satisfaction becomes. Because permanence cannot be found in what is constantly changing. This creates a paradox. The more something is desired, the less stable it becomes. The more it is pursued, the less it satisfies. And yet, the mind continues. Because it has not seen the structure, it still believes that the next experience will be different, that the next achievement will last. But when this entire movement is seen clearly, something begins to shift. The issue is no longer what is being pursued. It is the movement of pursuit itself. And in that realization, the cycle begins to lose its momentum. Not through effort, but through understanding. Because what is seen clearly is no longer followed in the same way. And in that, something entirely different begins to become possible. A way of living where satisfaction is not something to be achieved, but something that appears when the movement of seeking is not active. When the entire movement of pursuit is seen clearly, from the sense of lack to the projection of fulfillment, to the temporary satisfaction, and back again to seeking, something begins to come to a natural stop. Not because the mind decides to stop, not because it forces itself to renounce desire, but because the illusion behind the movement is no longer believed. For so long, the mind was moving towards something it imagined would complete it. Something in the future,
something not yet here. But now, it becomes clear that what was being pursued has never actually been found in what was reached. Each time, the same pattern repeated. And in seeing that pattern fully, the assumption that something is missing begins to dissolve. This is the key. The movement of pursuit depends on the feeling that something is not enough now, that something more is needed, that something must be added. But when that assumption is no longer active, the movement has no foundation. There is nothing to move toward, nothing to become, nothing to complete. And in that absence, something entirely different begins to reveal itself. A stillness, not imposed, not cultivated, but naturally present when the mind is no longer moving away from what is. This stillness is not empty in the way the mind once feared. It is full, not with objects, not with experiences, but with presence. There is no lack, no gap to fill, no direction to follow. Life is no longer organized around becoming. It is not moving toward a goal. It is simply unfolding, moment by moment, without being turned into a means to something else. This changes everything, because action still happens. Life continues, but it is no longer driven by the need to find fulfillment. It is not shaped by the idea that something essential lies ahead. It is complete as it is. And from that completeness, action is no longer a way to get somewhere. It is an expression of what is already here. There is a simplicity in this, a lightness, because the burden of becoming has ended. There is no longer a constant pressure to improve, achieve, or arrive, only what is happening. And that is enough. Not as a belief, not as a concept, but as a fact, seen directly, without distortion. And in that seeing, something becomes undeniable. The search was never leading anywhere, because what was being sought was never absent. Now, without the search, what remains is what has always been here, uncovered, unpursued, and complete, just as it is.